I've worked storms before, but I've never seen clouds like those rolling in over Ash Grove that Tuesday. Kansas skies are famous for their temper tantrums, but this was something else. The horizon turned black hours before sundown, the kind of dark that makes you lose track of distance. The fields and silos blurred into one endless shadow. The air felt too heavy, like breathing through wet wool, and the taste of metal coated the back of my tongue. I was in the maintenance shed, trying to finish a job before the rain started, but the weather beat me to it. First came the wind, sweeping up grit and straw, rattling the tin walls. Then the rain hammered down all at once, not in drops, but in sheets, like someone had ripped open a dam above the town. Within minutes, the gravel lot turned into a shallow pond. Normally, storms pass. They blow over, they move on. But this one didn't. It just sat above us, pouring heavier with each hour. I called my sister to check in, but the line crackled, chopped, and died. I tried again and again until the phone gave up on me. That's when I felt the first pull of unease in my gut. By 3 o'clock, thunder had started, except it didn't roll or fade like thunder should. It just stayed there, a constant growl, deep and metallic, vibrating the shed's steel roof. It was like the sound was coming from inside the town instead of the sky. And that's when I saw him. The light in the shed flickered, and in that quick, broken glow, there was a man standing outside the window. No umbrella, no jacket, just standing in the downpour, head tilted like he was straining to hear something. My heart jumped into my throat, but when the light steadied again, the window was empty. I told myself it was a trick of the lightning. I wanted to believe that. But when I went outside, the rain soaking my shirt, I found 2 footprints pressed into the gravel. Bare feet. Just 2 prints, already filling with water. I left the shed after that. Nothing in me wanted to stay there alone. The streets were almost empty, except for the sheriff's cruiser rolling slowly through town. Tom Dalrymple's voice came over the loudspeaker, crackly and low, telling folks to stay inside. Roads were flooding, nothing to worry about. Typical Tom, more bark than brains. But I could see the worry in the way people moved. Curtains twitched, heads turned at every clap of thunder. The street lamps were already sputtering, some going dark entirely. Each time the sky lit up, for just a heartbeat, I swore I saw figures out past the fields, too many of them, standing perfectly still in the lightning's flash, gone in the dark again. By the time I reached my house, I was drenched. I peeled off my shirt and hung it near the stove, trying to shake the chill. The thunder rattled the windows, steady as a drumbeat, and I told myself to ignore it. But then, my phone screamed. It wasn't a ring, it wasn't a normal alert. It was this high, shrill tone that hurt in the bones of my teeth. My hands shook as I pulled the phone from the counter. The screen glowed red, letters stark and sharp against it. Emergency alert. Severe electrical storm over Ash Grove, Kansas. Remain indoors. Do not attempt to travel. Lock all doors and windows. Do not respond to voices outside. Shelter with others if possible. Await further instruction. I read it 3 times, and each time that one line stuck out like a nail in the eye. Do not respond to voices outside. I didn't even have time to process it before the message repeated. Then the screen went black. No signal, no service, nothing. I looked out the window, rain blurring everything. Across the street, I saw lights flick on in the Holloway's house. I could make out Ruth's silhouette moving from window to window. A few houses down, someone opened their front door and shouted a name, their voice cracked and desperate. The thunder swallowed it whole. That was when I knew this wasn't just another storm. The rain pounded the roof all night, relentless, like it had no intention of letting us sleep. I sat at the table with a cold cup of coffee, staring at the dead phone in my hand, and I made myself a promise. If I survived this, I'd keep a record. Someone needed to remember. The next morning the bells rang. Not for Sunday service. They rang hard, urgent, pulling everyone still left standing into the church. The whole town knew what it meant. Get inside. Now. By the time I arrived, soaked through and shivering, there were 8 of us gathered in the basement. Jada Cole, the firefighter, still wearing her red jacket, her voice sharp as she barked orders. Sheriff Tom, arms crossed, chewing a toothpick like none of this bothered him. Maya Lynn, barely 16, clutching a backpack stuffed with wires and tools, eyes wide but alert. Ethan Marsh, grinning like the storm was a game, too charming for his own good. Ruth and Walt Halloway, neighbors of mine, Ruth whispering prayers into her rosary while Walt tapped his cane, deaf to half of what was said. Dr. Sloan, the retired doctor, cold-eyed, already muttering about rations and resources. And me, Noah Reyes, maintenance worker, with this logbook and pen. We sat in the damp basement, the sound of rain leaking through the ceiling above us. Sheriff Tom snorted at the alert. Voices outside. Hell of a joke, he muttered, scaring folks for nothing. But Jada wasn't laughing. She stood by the door, rain dripping from her hair, and said, "It doesn't matter what it means. We're sealing this place. No one opens the door, not for anything." Her tone left no room for argument. We obeyed. We dragged shelves, boxes, anything heavy we could find against the basement doors. Walt tapped his cane on the floor nervously, and Ruth clutched his hand. Maya scribbled something in a little notebook. Already planning, already calculating. Ethan just smiled that snake smile and said, "What if the storm's not the problem? What if it's trying to tell us something?" No one answered him. The thunder rolled louder, closer, rattling the glass windows high on the basement wall. And then lightning hit. For a second, the stained glass above lit up like fire, colors glowing in the rain. But what froze me wasn't the light. It was the shapes behind it. Faces, dozens of faces, pressed against the glass, watching us, eyes wide, unblinking. The light faded, and the glass was just glass again, streaked with rain. But my heart kept hammering long after. That was the first night. The first night passed in a haze of whispers, dripping water, and thunder that shook the church walls. None of us slept more than a few minutes at a time. Every time I closed my eyes, I thought I heard something in the stairwell or someone calling faintly above the roar of the rain. My mind kept circling back to the alert on my phone. Do not respond to voices outside. What kind of storm warning says something like that? By morning, the basement smelled of damp clothes and fear. Ruth was already leading Walt in a quiet prayer, her voice steady but thin, while Maya sat cross-legged on the floor with wires and batteries spread out in front of her. She was trying to build something that looked like a radio. Ethan teased her, saying it was pointless, but she ignored him. I admired that about her. Focused, even in chaos. Sheriff Tom stood near the stairwell door, grumbling. His gray hair was damp from where he'd gone upstairs to check the main hall. "Storm's still up there. Worse than last night. Whole street's flooded," he said, chewing hard on that toothpick. "But it'll blow over. Just a matter of time." Jada shot him a glare. "You keep saying that, Sheriff, but nothing about this is normal." Tom snorted. "Storm's a storm. Folks get worked up too easy." I should have spoken then, told him what I saw in the lightning, those faces pressed to the glass. But my throat locked up. Maybe I didn't want to believe it either. It was just before noon when it happened. We were all gathered near the center of the room, eating what scraps we had. Crackers, dried fruit, a few bottles of water. Jada was talking about moving supplies from the fire station once the rain let up, when a voice called down through the stairwell. "Dad?" It was young, shaky, muffled by the rain. Sheriff Tom froze. The toothpick fell out of his mouth. His eyes went wide and wet, and for the first time since the storm started, I saw him without that wall of pride. "Matthew," he whispered. I knew that name. Everyone in town did. His son had died in a car crash 5 years ago. "Dad, it's me," the voice called again, clearer now. "Please open the door." Jada was on her feet instantly. "No one moves," she said, firm, sharp. "That's not real." Tom turned on her, face red, fists clenched. "Don't you tell me what's real. That's my boy." "Sheriff," Dr. Sloan said quietly, cold as ever, "your son is dead. If you open that door, we all die with you." Tom's whole body shook. The voice came again, pleading, closer. "Please, Dad. It's so cold out here. Please let me in." I saw the war happening in his face. The sheriff, the father. One side knew the rules, the other didn't care. And then he snapped. He shoved past Jada, ripping the chair from the basement door. Before anyone could stop him, he hauled it open. The stairwell gaped above us, full of shadow and rain light. We all held our breath. At first, there was nothing. Just water dripping down the steps. Then lightning flared, and for a split second we saw him. A boy, maybe 16, soaked to the bone, skin pale and lips blue. He looked just like the pictures I'd seen of Matthew. "Dad," the boy whispered. Tom bolted up the stairs, arms open. "No!" Jada screamed, but it was too late. The boy's head twitched in a strange, jerky motion. His lips stretched too wide, peeling back from teeth that weren't teeth anymore, but long, dark shapes glinting in the lightning. And then the stairwell filled with a wet sound, like meat tearing, and Tom's shout cut off. We all stumbled back as the storm howled outside, the rain hammering harder, the thunder bellowing so loud it shook plaster from the ceiling. Jada slammed the basement door shut, bracing it with both arms, eyes wild. "Help me!" she barked, and we threw ourselves against it, dragging the chair and shelves back in place. For long minutes, nothing happened, just the storm and our ragged breathing. Then, 3 soft knocks on the door, and a voice, perfectly calm. "It's all right now. I'm here." It was Tom's voice. Ruth gasped, tears sliding down her cheeks. "He's alive." "No," Jada hissed. "It's not him." You all heard the alert. Do not respond to voices. The knocking stopped. Silence fell, heavy as stone. We stood there, waiting, hearts thundering with the storm. And then, faintly, through the basement's narrow window, I saw movement. A figure drenched and pale, standing outside in the rain. Tom, or what looked like him. He stood there all night, blinking, staring. None of us ate much after that. The rules were starting to make sense, and they were worse than any of us wanted to admit. Dr. Sloan said it plain, his voice cold as a scalpel. Whatever's in that storm, it can wear our dead like masks, and if we listen long enough, we give it the keys ourselves. Maya was pale, biting her lip. "So, what do we do?" she asked. "We follow the rules," Jada said, gripping the iron fire poker she'd taken from upstairs. "Salt, iron, code words, earplugs if we have to. And no one opens that door again." Her eyes swept the room, daring anyone to argue. Ethan leaned back, smirking. What if the storm just wants a trade? One of us. For the rest, Sheriff seemed happy enough to go. Ruth gasped, and even Sloan shot him a look of disgust. "You shut your damn mouth," Jada snarled. But Ethan just shrugged, like it was all a joke. "I'm just saying, maybe it doesn't want all of us." I wanted to hit him then, wipe that smile off his face, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at Tom's double outside the window, standing there in the rain, dripping, blinking, patient. I realized then that the storm wasn't just weather. It was hunting. And now, it knew our names. The storm never eased. By the 3rd morning, the church basement was half flooded, water pooling across the cracked tiles, dripping from the ceiling in steady beats. It soaked our blankets, spoiled what little food we had left, and made every breath taste of mold and rust. Worst of all, Tom's double still stood outside the window, face slack, dripping, his eyes never closing. Every so often, in the crackle of thunder, I thought I saw his lips move. None of us wanted to stay there. Giada finally said it out loud. "We can't keep this place sealed," she told us, kicking water away from the door. "Basement's gonna drown. Supplies won't last. We need higher ground, and we need it now." Dr. Sloan adjusted his glasses with a wet hand, eyeing the dark water creeping around his boots. "She's right. A week at most, and this place will kill us before the storm does." "Where then?" Ruth asked, voice tight. "Where do we go?" Maya spoke up, quiet but firm. "The school. It's on the hill. It's higher, and it has a generator. If I can get it running, maybe even power the radios." Ethan grinned. "Now there's an idea. Maybe the storm's been waiting for us to call home." Nobody laughed. By noon, we were moving. We wrapped our feet in plastic bags, threw on whatever coats we had, and stepped into the storm together. The walk to the school should have been 10 minutes. It felt like hours. The rain lashed against us, filling every pocket, dragging at our legs. Thunder cracked constantly above our heads, and every time lightning struck, it didn't just flash. It held, stretching a fraction of a second too long. In that frozen white light, I saw things standing in the fields. Dozens of them. Some looked like neighbors, others I didn't recognize. All of them staring, motionless, until the dark returned. Walt slipped in the mud once, nearly falling, and Ruth screamed his name. A bolt of lightning slammed into the road ahead of us, so close I felt the shock shiver through my bones. Jada yanked us forward. "Quiet! Stay moving, stay low!" she barked. When we finally reached the school, my arms ached from holding Ruth and Walt upright. The doors were swollen from the rain, but Jada and I forced them open, and we stumbled inside, dripping and shivering. The air was heavy with mildew. The halls stretched long and dark, lockers dented, bulletin boards curling. It had been abandoned for years, but it was dry, and that was enough. We sealed the doors with desks and cabinets, marking chalk arrows down cleared hallways so we wouldn't get lost. Maya took the science room as her base, spreading wires and parts across the counters. For a while, there was a flicker of hope. By late afternoon, she'd managed to cobble together something. An old radio wrapped in a cage of copper wire, hooked to batteries scavenged from flashlights. It sputtered, hissed, then crackled with voices. "Rescue teams moving in from flooding along Route 19. Hold fast, Ashgrove. Help is..." The words were broken, faint, like whispers through walls, but they were human, real. Ruth cried when she heard them. Walt patted her hand, though he couldn't hear a thing. Even Jada's hard face softened for a second, but Dr. Sloan just shook his head. "Could be false, could be bait. We'll know soon enough." And he was right. The problem was food. The church's scraps hadn't lasted. The school's cafeteria was our best chance. We went as a group, me, Jada, Ethan, and Maya, while the others stayed behind. The cafeteria was on the far side of the school, and every step down those halls felt wrong. The chalk arrows glowed faintly in the flashlight beam, pointing us back if we needed. When we reached the cafeteria, the smell hit first. Damp, sour, spoiled bread. Most of the shelves were bare, but in the freezer we found boxes of sealed rations, packets of crackers, powdered milk. Enough to buy us time. Ethan was the first to laugh in daze. "Looks like the storm's not so tough after all," he said, stuffing packets into his jacket. That's when the PA system crackled to life. The intercoms had been dead for years, but now a voice hissed through them, distorted but clear. "Noah? Noah Reyes. Please come to the gym. We're waiting." My blood ran cold. It was my sister's voice. Jada spun on me. "Don't listen. You hear me? It's not real." But the voice came again, softer, almost pleading. "Please, Noah. It's so dark. I can't find you." The flashlight shook in my hands. I knew it wasn't her. I knew she was miles away if she was even alive. But hearing her like that... Ethan smirked. "Maybe we should check. What if there's others?" "No," Jada snapped. "You know the rules. It's a trap." But the words gnawed at me. The storm knew my name. It knew hers. How? We filled our bags with food and turned back. But on the way, in the long hallway lined with lockers, we realized one of us was gone. Maya. My chest locked tight. We sprinted back, our boots slapping the tile, calling her name in whispers. When we found her, she was standing at the end of the hall staring at the gym doors. The voice was still playing over the PA, gentle, coaxing. "This way, Noah. This way, Maya. Just open the door." Jada grabbed Maya's arm, yanking her back. "Don't listen," she hissed, and then the gym door rattled. Ethan grinned nervously. Maybe it's real this time. The door burst inward. Water gushed through, pouring across the tile, and something stumbled into the hall. At first it looked like a man. Then the light hit its face, skin pale, sagging, eyes glassy, too wide, unblinking. Water poured from its clothes, dripping onto the floor. Its lips moved in jerky rhythm with the PA system, repeating the same words.
"This way, Noah. This way, Maya. This way, Noah."
We all screamed. Jada shoved Maya behind her and swung the iron poker she carried, slamming it across the thing's skull. It shrieked, sparks flashing where the iron touched its skin, and collapsed into the water, twitching. But the damage was done. The PA went dead, and the hall fell silent. We dragged Maya back to the science room, shaking, dripping, clutching the food to our chests. She wouldn't speak. She just kept staring at the chalk arrow, like she was afraid it would vanish. That night we sat in the cafeteria, eating crackers in silence, the sound of rain echoing through the vents. Ruth whispered, "We're being hunted," and for the first time, no one argued. The fourth day began with whispers, not from the storm, from us. I woke in the corner of the science room, my back stiff from the concrete floor, and heard Jada and Dr. Sloan arguing in the hallway. Their voices were low, sharp. "She's a child," Jada snapped. "She made a mistake, that's all." "A mistake that nearly got us all killed," Sloan hissed back. "You saw her." She froze. "If she hesitates again, she's compromised. You want to keep her here because you're soft. I want to keep us alive." I sat up, rubbing my eyes, trying to blink away the dizziness of another night without sleep. Maya was curled against the wall, eyes wide open, staring at nothing. She hadn't closed them once all night. Ethan was sitting near her, tossing a cracker in the air, catching it with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. He leaned closer to her and whispered, "It's not your fault, you know. They don't understand. The storm doesn't want to hurt you. Not really. It just wants to talk." "Shut up," I muttered. He smirked. "What? You don't think maybe it has a reason? It knows our names. It knew your sisters. What if it's not the enemy?" I wanted to hit him. Instead, I stood and walked to the hall, where Jada and Sloane's fight was boiling. The others were listening too, Ruth wringing her hands, Walt frowning, unable to hear but catching the tension in the air. "We're not quarantining a teenager," Jada said. "Not happening." "You're blinded," Sloane snapped. "Look at her, pale, trembling, staring at shadows. If she's been touched by it, if it's gotten inside her head, then she's a liability." "Enough," I said, louder than I meant to. My voice echoed down the wet halls. "We're all liabilities. We're all breaking. You want to start throwing people out, there won't be anyone left." Sloane glared at me, but he didn't push it further. Not then. That afternoon, the storm grew worse. The rain hammered against the windows so hard it sounded like fists pounding from the outside. Water dripped steadily from the ceiling tiles, collecting in buckets we had set out, the sound like a clock counting down. We tried to keep busy. Jada organized shifts to walk the halls, checking the chalk marks to make sure nothing had moved. Maya tinkered with the radio, though she flinched every time it crackled. Ruth murmured prayers. Walt carved notches into his cane for every day we survived. And Ethan wandered, always near the doors, near the windows, humming to himself. By evening, we decided to eat together in the cafeteria again. Ruth insisted. If we don't share a table, if we don't share food, then it's already one, she said, laying out packets of crackers like communion wafers. We sat in a circle, passing water bottles, chewing quietly. That's when the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the door to the hallway. Walt stiffened. Ruth clutched his arm. "It's just the storm," she whispered. Then came the voice. "Walt? Ruth? It's Pastor Hargrove. Please let me in." Ruth's eyes filled with tears. "It's him," she whispered. "It's really him." "No," Jada said firmly. "He's been gone for months. You know that." But the voice was warm, kind, exactly as we remembered. "Please. We're safe now. The storm is passing. Just open the door." Ruth stood, trembling. "We have to check." "No," Jada barked. "You know the rules." Ethan leaned back in his chair, smiling. "There's a way to know for sure. The phrase, right? Ask it the phrase. The phrase. Every time one of us left and came back, we said it to prove we were real. What do you do when the lightning comes? The answer: count to 7 and stay inside." Ruth's voice cracked. "What do you do when the lightning comes?" Silence. Then the voice replied, steady and sure. "Count to 7 and stay inside." Jada's face drained of color. She looked around the circle, furious. Who told it? Who gave it the phrase? All eyes turned to Ethan. He just shrugged. What? Maybe it already knew. Maybe it's smarter than we think. Before anyone could move, Ruth rushed to the door, fumbling at the barricade. Walt tried to follow her, but his cane slipped on the wet tile. He fell forward, and the door swung wide. The thing that stepped in looked like the pastor. For a moment, in the dim light, Ruth believed. She threw her arms around him, sobbing. Then his skin split at the mouth, stretching too wide, and water poured out, filling her throat. She choked, gasping, as Walt tried to pull her back. But the double's hand shot out, clamping over Walt's face. His deaf ears never heard the wet snap of his neck. Jada screamed and drove her iron poker straight through the thing's chest. It convulsed, shrieking, and collapsed into a puddle of foul-smelling water. Ruth cradled Walt's body, rocking back and forth, wailing. The rest of us stood frozen. Finally, Jada turned to Ethan, eyes blazing. "You did this." Ethan spread his hands, smiling faintly. "Or maybe the storm did." I wanted to kill him then. I think we all did. But Ruth's sobs filled the room, and none of us moved. That night, no one slept. We dragged Walt's body to the far hall, covering him with a tarp. Ruth refused to leave his side, whispering prayers through her tears. Jada doubled the watches. I sat with her in the science room, listening to the rain pound on the roof. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "He's going to get us all killed. Ethan, he's playing with it." I nodded. "We should have left him outside." "We still could," she muttered. I didn't answer. Maya sat curled in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the radio. It buzzed faintly, picking up nothing but static. Somewhere in that static, I thought I heard a laugh. And I knew, deep in my chest, that we weren't going to survive a week. By the 5th day, Ashgrove was half drowned. The school, perched on its little rise, was still dry inside, but the windows looked out on a black sea of rainwater that swallowed the streets. Cars sat half submerged. The church steeple was barely visible through the storm, the cross at its peak bending under the constant lightning. Every direction was water and shadow. Inside, the walls we'd trusted to keep us safe began to betray us. The ceiling tiles sagged heavy with collected rain. Vents dripped steadily. Even the chalk arrows smeared in the damp, fading into gray smudges. We were running out of food again. The crackers and powdered milk gave us enough for one small meal a day. My stomach knotted constantly, empty and gnawing. Walt's death had left us shaken, Ruth silent, and no one trusted anyone anymore. That morning, Doctor, Sloane stood before us, pale and sharp as a knife. His voice cut through the sound of the storm hammering the walls. We have to face reality. We can't trust anyone who's been touched by it. The voices, the hesitation, the fear, those are symptoms. If we want to survive, we need quarantine. His eyes slid toward Maya. Jada was on her feet in an instant. Over my dead body, she's not infected. Sloane didn't flinch. She almost opened that gym door. If she does it again, she won't just kill herself, she'll kill all of us. Maya sat stiffly against the wall, her small hands wrapped around her knees. She didn't cry. She just looked at me, eyes wide and searching. I swallowed hard. "No one gets left behind," I said. My voice was shaking, but I made it firm. "That's not how we do this." Sloane scoffed. "That's exactly how we all die." Ethan laughed softly from the corner, tossing a coin he'd found in the halls. "Maybe the doc's got a point. Or maybe there's another way." Jada turned on him. "What the hell does that mean?" He leaned forward, grinning. "What if the storm doesn't want to kill us? What if it just wants an offering, a trade, one for the rest? That's how deals work, right?" Ruth, her face hollow, whispered, "You're talking about sacrifice." "Survival," Ethan corrected, smiling wider. "And I'll do it. I'll go talk to it." "No," Jada snapped. "You step outside, you're gone. That's the end of it." Ethan just shrugged. "We'll see." The day dragged on in misery. Hunger made us short-tempered. The storm's whispers grew louder, pressing against the walls, crawling through the vents. Sometimes it was one voice. Sometimes it was all of them at once. Mothers, fathers, children, lovers. "Open the door. Just a little longer. You're safe now. We're waiting." We stuffed rags in our ears, sat with our backs against the walls, clutching iron rods like lifelines. Sleep was impossible. Late that night, as I dozed in and out beside Maya, a crash jolted me awake. One of the windows in the hall had shattered inward, spraying glass across the floor. Jada was already running toward it, her poker in hand, shouting for light. We found Ethan there, standing in the jagged frame, the rain lashing his face. He wasn't wet. That was the first thing I noticed. The storm beat down on him, but his clothes looked almost dry, like the water slid away before it could touch him. Jada froze. "What the hell did you do?" Ethan smiled calmly, stepping inside. "I made a deal." Maya whimpered, clinging to my arm. He walked toward us, casual, his boots leaving no wet prints on the floor. "I told it we were tired, hungry, weak. I told it we needed time, and it agreed." "Bullshit," Jada spat. She lifted the poker, pointing it at his chest. "What are you?" Ethan tilted his head. "The same as before, just smarter." Sloane's eyes gleamed. "Prove it. Iron check. Now." For the first time, Ethan hesitated. That was enough. Jada swung the poker. Ethan caught it with one hand. For a moment it looked like he might stop it cold, but then the iron hissed against his skin and smoke curled up. He hissed, jerking back, his grin warping into something too wide, too wet. "See?" Jada shouted. "He's one of them." Ethan staggered, but his smile returned, twisted. "You don't get it. It learns. It's already inside all of us. You can't fight it." He slammed his hand against the wall, and the storm answered. Thunder cracked so loud it rattled the lockers. Lightning smashed through the broken window. striking the metal tables, sending sparks flying. The smell of ozone filled the air, sharp and choking. Ruth screamed. Maya clung to me. The barricades shuddered as the storm hammered against the walls, water pouring through every gap. The doubles came with it, faces pressed against the glass, pale and dripping, eyes unblinking. They didn't knock this time. They pushed. The barricades groaned, wood splintering. The chalk marks vanished under the flood. "Run!" Jada roared. We tore through the halls, the storm chasing us, doors bursting open behind us as water and figures poured in. I half-carried Maya, her legs stumbling, as Ruth limped beside us, clutching her rosary. Sloan was ahead, barking orders, but even his voice was swallowed by the storm's roar. We reached the stairwell, and Jada slammed the fire door behind us, bracing it with her body. "Go! Downstairs, now!" I dragged Maya, Ruth following close. We stumbled into the basement halls, dark and dripping. Old storage tunnels stretched ahead, leading under the school toward the hospital across the street. Behind us, I heard Jada scream as the fire door buckled. Then silence. I wanted to go back. God, I wanted to. But Ruth shoved me forward, tears streaming down her face. "Don't you dare stop. Don't you dare waste her." So we kept running, the sound of water and whispers chasing us into the tunnels. By the time we collapsed in the dark, gasping, soaked, and trembling, we were only 4 left. Me, Maya, Ruth, Sloan. The storm wasn't done. Not by far. The tunnels were colder than the storm above. Concrete walls sweated moisture. Pipes groaned as water dripped steadily from every seam. The sound echoed endlessly, making it impossible to tell where it came from. We huddled in the dark with a single flashlight, its beam cutting through damp air like a blade. Ruth rocked back and forth, clutching her rosary so tightly the beads dug into her hands. Her lips moved in prayer, whispering faster with every drip from the ceiling. Sloan sat across from her, silent, staring at nothing, his glasses fogged. Maya pressed against me, trembling. She hadn't spoken since Jada slammed the fire door. I opened my journal with shaking hands, water smearing the ink, and wrote anyway. Day 6. We've lost more than we can count. The storm has taken the school. We're trapped in the tunnels. We can hear it down here too. I don't know how long we can last. Every move felt useless. The storm was already here, in the pipes, in the walls, in our ears. That night, as we sat in silence, the whispers returned. First one voice, then another, then dozens layered, weaving through the air.
Noah, Ruth, Maya, Doctor.
They spoke our names like lullabies. They spoke secrets only we should have known. My sister's laugh, Ruth's wedding vows, Sloane's lectures, Maya's mother's voice, gentle and pleading. "Sweetheart, open the door. Let me see you." Maya's head jerked up, eyes wide. "It's her," she whispered. "It's my mom." "No," I said firmly, clutching her shoulders. "It's not. Don't listen." But the voice was so tender, so perfectly her, that even I almost believed it. Ruth broke first. She stood, clutching her rosary, tears running down her face. "It's Walt," she sobbed. "He's calling me. He needs me. I can't leave him alone." "Ruth," I started, but she was already moving. She walked to the door at the end of the tunnel, the one we hadn't barricaded yet. She laid her hands on the iron handle, whispering a prayer. Then she opened it. The storm poured in, swallowing her in a single flash of lightning. When the dark returned, she was gone. Maya screamed. I dragged her back, slamming the door shut, pressing the iron bar across it. But it didn't matter. We were only 3 now. Hours blurred, hunger gnawed. Exhaustion broke us down to raw nerves. Sloan finally snapped. He stood, pacing the tunnel, muttering to himself. "We're already dead. Don't you see? It's in our heads. It's in her." He pointed at Maya, eyes wild. "She's the key. She's how it gets in. We cut her loose. Maybe we live." Maya shrank into me, sobbing. "Sit down," I growled. "She's staying with me." "She's a liability," he shouted. I raised the iron bar. "So am I." For a moment, Sloane looked ready to fight. Then he laughed bitterly, shook his head, and slumped back against the wall. "Then we're finished." The storm proved him right. The door at the far end creaked. Not forced open, not broken, just creaked, like someone had turned the handle. Footsteps echoed in the tunnel. Slow, steady. And then Ethan walked into the light. He was dry, perfectly dry. His hair neat, his smile calm. His eyes blinked in rhythm, too slow, too deliberate. "Hello, friends," he said warmly. His voice was smooth now, without the jagged echo the others had carried. "It's all over. You can come with me." Sloane rose shakily to his feet. What are you?" Ethan smiled wider. "Better, smarter. Free." I lifted the iron bar, my arms trembling. "Stay back." Ethan stepped closer, unflinching. "You don't need the iron anymore, don't you see? I've learned, I've passed your tests. I'm you, Noah. I'm already you." The flashlight flickered. In that stuttering light, Ethan's face shifted. One moment it was him, the next it was me, staring back, dripping, smiling. Maya screamed. Sloane lunged forward, swinging a rusted pipe. Ethan caught it with ease, twisting it from his hands. His other hand slammed against Sloane's chest. The doctor crumpled, coughing blood, eyes wide with disbelief. "Thank you," Ethan murmured, lowering him gently to the floor like a child put to bed. I dragged Maya back, heart hammering, knowing it was over. There was no iron, no code phrase left to save us. The storm had learned everything. I opened my journal one last time, the ink running in the damp, and wrote with a shaking hand. Day 7. It's here. Ethan's not Ethan. He's perfect now. He passed every test. We have no defenses left. If anyone finds this, know that Ashgrove didn't fall to the rain. It fell to the voices. It fell because we listened. Lightning split the ceiling. Water poured in. Ethan's smile was the last thing I saw before the dark swallowed us. Weeks later, rescuers came to Ashgrove. The storm had passed, leaving the town drowned and shattered. Houses half collapsed, silos bent, the church burned to its frame. In the hospital tunnels, they found scraps of us. My journal lay half soaked, pages smudged, names smeared. And they found her, Maya Lynn, 16, huddled in the corner, alive but broken. Her eyes were hollow, her voice thin as a whisper. She didn't remember the names of the others. Not Jada, not Ruth, not even mine. When they asked her what happened, she gave them only one line, over and over. It rained for 7 days. But I think it's still raining in me.